Hey, okay. Thank you so much for speaking to me.
Yeah,
This
of course.
se- this series is really interesting. We do know that it's based on a bunch of best-selling novels. And
Hmm.
so what I wanted to know, when it came into not just stepping into the role, but into the series itself, did you feel that you had to know personally everything that happened within the novels? Or are you the kind of actor who relies solely on scripts?
Yeah, that's a great question. Interesting backstory on getting the part was I had been auditioning for it right before the actors strike, and then the strike hit like right after I had had a chemistry read, and I had a really good feeling about it. I was like, I think I got it, but then I was able to sort of sit. I had to sit and wait for almost 4 months before I had known that I had gotten it. So in the meantime, I usually don't have that amount of time to like read a whole book series. But I was like, okay, well, since I'm killing time, I might as well. And so I did read all the books, and it's different because I had a pilot of the series already, and so I was able to sort of see the direction they were going. Um, and then once I did finally, get the part and I had been talking to the showrunner about it, we'd gone over sort of the differences of, the direction that the series was going to go from the books. And, but still, I think there's really good things to sort of extract from the books, and sort of layering those with the scripts. But, when it comes time to shoot and, the direction of the show, definitely relying more on, that, than the books, but there's always value in sort of constructing that world, and just like as an actor, like you create these like memories, and you create like childhood memories or whatever, and so like getting to take those sorts of things out of the books was really valuable.
What do you feel about Fuller Ranch that really just helps to define who Yancy is?
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time? You broke up a little bit.
I was saying, when it comes to Fuller Ranch, you arrive at Fuller Ranch, how
Mhm.
do you feel that it kind of helps define who Yancy is or pretends to be? He's a
Yeah,
mystery.
yeah. So I think the constant conflict that Yancey is dealing with is the fact that he's trying so hard to finally find like his home, his community, his family, and so Fuller Ranch that's in disarray when he shows up, and clearly needs a lot of work, I think is a good sort of, you know, representation of the Fullers in general, which Yancey we find out is one of. And so for him to kind of try and bring that whole place back to life is, sort of mirrors him trying to create these relationships and like, sort of absolve the sins of his past and do all these sorts of things, especially with Cap and Ellie. Um, but yeah, it's a great sort of metaphor for what's going on internally with him. And then of course the struggle is, he's still being he's still hiding so much, and he gets ultimately what he wants, but not in the way that he wanted, as the show progressed. So yeah, it's pretty complicated for him. But I think a lot will be discovered in season two.
Okay. Now, I was wondering also with this, how do you feel that the past defines the character that he is trying to become? Is
Mhm.
there really a separation of the two?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think there's absolutely this cognitive dissonance going on, where, and that happens, I think, all the time in life where you're going at something with your mind made up with, I'm coming to this place for revenge. And, through that process, ultimately I did want family and connection. And, I find that, maybe my original assumptions were wrong, and, and having to balance that because now I've put myself in a position where I'm about to like really screw things up and I'm putting people in danger. And, it's that really, it creates a lot of tension, which, I think makes like a very compelling storyline. But yeah, he's got cognitive dissonance, I think is the thing, because he's trying not to lie, but he's got to lie. But he's trying to, figure out a way to not ruin these things that he's wanted so long. So it's a delicate dance, you know.
Do you feel that he can adapt to what the definition of revenge is for him? It may not look one way, but it can look like something else. Or do you feel like he's someone who is gun ho where it has to be exactly how he wants it?
Oh, I think he can adapt. I think in the beginning of the show, it was really, sort of this out of desperation hatching this plan. And but also it's going to work for him, because he's going to get what he wants and he's going to help Davis get what he wants. Um, and so, and yeah, and but that's sort of the tragic thing, which is he gets what he wants, but not in the way that he wanted it. And,
Mhm.
and then obviously his goals change, where it's like, okay, maybe I don't want to take this from Cap. Like I would trade all of this for Ellie and I would trade all of this for a relationship with Cap. And those two things get ripped away, mostly by his actions. But yeah, so it's again this opposing forces and this like internal struggle with him. But I think he can change, and I think that's the sort of theme of his whole arc, which is a man who's trying to change and a man who's trying to, make amends for his past. And yeah.
I wanted to talk about Ellie for a little bit of the relationship with Ellie. Do you feel that that is something that he knew he was capable of within that relationship and really genuinely caring about this person?
I don't think it started out that way. I think it started out
Mhm.
with, she was, a pawn in his game, and he just sort of needed to navigate that in order to, get around and manipulate Cap. But as, their story progresses, I think he starts to see that she's someone who understands that, he comes from a troubled place and she can relate to that. And she sees that he wants to change, even if he doesn't see it himself. So she's able to sort of bring the best out of him. And
Mhm.
I think that attraction is really important, because he's trying to be a better man, and she makes him want to be a better man. So yeah, I think that their relationship specifically has a big swing, a midway through. So, yeah.
What does change really look like, do you feel, for him?
Yeah. God, well, I mean, he's got to start getting honest about stuff. I think I think it's the change that he wants is that community. So, it is
Mhm.
Ransom and it is a place to call home. But also changing this sort of lifelong way of living, which was, breaking the law and, kind of scheming and, running cons and doing all these sorts of things. So being an honest man, I think would be the core sort of thing that he's looking to change, and change into. Um, but yeah, I mean that's what makes it so difficult because he's done all these things that continue to like haunt him. So how do you be honest? Well, you gotta be bad to be good, and that's sort of the push and pull of the whole thing.
Right. So constantly being someone who manipulates the other characters and has his own goals in mind, I was wondering, do you feel in a way that he loses a sense of who he is, his core self, by constantly being someone else in order to get what he wants?
Yeah, no, I mean, if you've been spending your whole life, doing that, then
Hmm.
you're obviously going to have sort of a you know, a messed up sense of self, and you're like, who am I? If you know, if you're lying about all these things constantly, um, and so I think that at the core of who he is a guy who wants to break that cycle. And you know, that's what makes his, you know, just internal fight so interesting to watch and for me very interesting to play. Because I think he is a guy who just wants to be a good man. You know, his father was a good man, and he had these things taken away. So it's easy to justify his actions in his mind. But at a certain point, you know, the clock kind of runs out on that. And it had been for him. So
So I was wondering, as an actor, what is your process of getting into the mindset of Yancy Gray and also that environment that he is in?
yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of prep work went into this, and I was very grateful for the amount of time that I had going into the show, you know, to really sit with the character. Um, but I think if I, you know, if I boil my process down to the most simple version of it, it's, you know, what is my overall objective? What is the thing I want more than anything? And then, you know, in each scene, in each moment, you know, how am I going to win this moment in order to get, how does that help serve me to get towards my overall? Um, and, you know, and then with that, then you're sprinkling in, you know, all of these conflicts and obstacles and, you know, secrets, you know, and I think all those sorts of layers work together. And then that's the great thing about, you know, being on set and on location with all these people is when it comes time to really do that, then you can let that go. You know, you let all that like work go, you just sit with it, and then you know, you trust that the work that you've done is gonna bring a pretty honest performance.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to me. The series
Absolutely.
looks beautiful, so thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Really appreciate it.